I've got these bass patterns in place and I've muted the drums. Now you'll recall that I have some hand claps programmed up on an Impact XT instrument. So I want to leave that as is, but I'm going to create another track pointing to the same instrument. So let me just hit the plus button and I'm going to call it drums. And I'm going to go to an existing instrument. And here I'm going to choose Impact XT. And let's hit OK. And there's my new track, drums, right underneath the claps. I'm going to go to the beginning here and I'm going to hit Command-Shift-P. And let's start off by making it 2 bars. And I'll hit F2 to open the editor. And there's my editing window. And it's now in drum mode that, we can switch back and forth to from here. So this looks similar. Right now it's 16 steps. I'm going to make it 32 steps so it lasts a full 32 beats for 2 bars. I'll leave the resolution as 16th notes. We have the same parameters here with swing, gate, and accent. I'll raise that a little bit. And we have the same step recording functions. Now we have some different right-click menu options, and we have shortcuts for them over here. For example, let's start with the kick drum. I'm auditioning and hearing them because we see that this is enabled. I can click over here and I can go fill every 4th step. So right away, I'll have quarter notes. So I can go to the snare and maybe I'll start over here and right click and I can go every 2nd step. And now I'm going to have 8th notes on that. That's not necessarily what I want. So I'm just going to hit Command Z to undo. But just to show you that's what we can do if we want. I'm going to put some random hits in like that. And then for the hi-hat, I can go something like fill the entire lane and it'll be all 16th notes. It's going to sound a bit stiff. That's not working out so great. Let's just put in a few random ones. Great, and I'll command click to give some of these some accents. And we're off to a good start, although we need to vary it some more. Now, we have these right-click menus where we can copy the selected lane and then paste it to another lane. We can fill, like you saw, every 2nd step, every 4th. We can shift the lane, which I'll show you in a moment, and that's interesting. And we can, again, double the speed or half the speed for specific lanes, which, again, can be interesting. And we can copy the entire pattern, clear it, or double or half the speed for the entire pattern rather than just the lane. So let's go to shift lane. I'm going to click hi-hat here, and I can right click and go shift lane, and it's going to move it over. So it'll create some interesting variations. And we have shortcut buttons for these functions up here. Every 4th step, every 2nd, fill the lane. Here we have clear the lane, and here we have the shift. And he cycled around to the beginning. All interesting possibilities. Now, we have a wrench icon here that allows us to edit some of the properties of this drum mapping. So the names are recognized automatically because it's Impact XT. But if I go into this mode, I have a couple of choices. I can shift the order around. Like maybe I want to view the bass drum on top, and maybe I want to view the snare drum right underneath that. Maybe I want to view the hi-hat next. And then we can selectively choose what we want to hide from view with these dots. So we can reorder, hide from view. We can change the color by clicking on here. Maybe I want those snares to be that color instead, or maybe that color. Let's make it something nice and bright and vivid. That'll do it. And we can also click and enter names so that we can customize third-party drum kits. And I'll close that. And then here we can hide or show unused. So let's hide unused. So I have just those 3. And I could have hidden more within this edit mode, but this is another quick way of doing it. And I can show the default mappings, which includes just the named ones and not the unnamed ones. And that's for XT or show all, which shows everything there. But let's just go to hide unused for the moment. And then we can, of course, zoom so we can see them all nice and big. Now, this part is sounding fairly static, but we have ways of varying it. By opening up this automation lane, we got this and we can resize it. We can randomize or change a number of properties. For example, the hi-hat. Here's the velocity lane. I can lower the velocities. I can sort of click and drag and paint in some layers like that. And let's hear that. And that's interesting. And then we can repeat where we break each individual note up and repeat them. So for example, this will make this a little 30-second note, little double stroke. We can try 3 for a triplet feel. We can do the same thing on the snare. I'm going to just click in the snare lane here, and there are the notes, and I'm going to set the repeats here for that on that accented note. Let me try one of the unaccented ones. And the more we do, it'll sound more like a buzz the higher this number is. So lots of interesting possibilities with that, and I'll put another little hit in there, and maybe on the hi-hat lane, something like that there. Now we have probability to alter the percent of chance that any one of these hits will happen. And of course, the lower that these are, the less probability there is. So you can play it through a few times. Like for these successive notes, I want to lower the probability for those, and they'll be different. And let's go to where we have the repeats. So let's say this step over here with this 7 hits, I'm going to switch that to probability, and I want to lower that so it doesn't happen every time. It happened that time. It didn't happen that time. And we can right click here and reset everything if we want to. Just hit Command Z to undo. And then we can click here to bring in automation parameters. Now we haven't looked at automation, so I'm not going to go into this too deep at the moment. We'll explore it later in the series, but we can add automation parameters to this pattern editor and edit automation in steps like this. So that wraps up our look at the pattern editor. We'll continue with more in the next video.